Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing, favorite season. Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing, favorite season. They said, say Nick, what you got up in that bag, yeah. I got racks in my sack or in my bag, yeah. They said, say Nick, what you got up in that bag, yeah. I got racks in my sack or in my bag, yeah. Frozen, neck is frozen, catch me rolling.
Let's move on to something a little bit happier, Nick. One of our favorite segments to do, our top 5 segment. And this week is very special. We have selected our top 5 moments in Thanksgiving history of the NFL. Top 5 Thanksgiving moments. How about I will get us started, Nick, and you take us home, because I'm going to lean on you on a couple of mine because they're more Dallas-based stories, because unfortunately Baltimore's only played twice on Thanksgiving and Dallas has played about 75 times. So there's a little bit more leaning towards your side of the ball. Nonetheless, let's get started. My number 5, is the infamous Pittsburgh Steeler Jerome Bettis coin toss incident. In 1998, there was a lot of memorable moments of that Thanksgiving Day game, but the most famous moment is the coin toss, where I believe it was the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Detroit Lions. They go into overtime, and before overtime starts, Pittsburgh gets to call heads or tails, and Bettis allegedly calls tails, or so he says. The ref flips the coin, and he says that Bettis has called heads. Now there's an argument that ensues. Nonetheless, the Vikings win the toss and go on to win the ball game. But Bettis says he didn't say heads and that they should have won, and this really caused a lot of controversy. Do you remember when this happened, Nick?
Yeah, so this is the funny thing about this is that the ref came after the game and said Bettis said heads tails. I'm not calling the ref a liar. I have never heard anyone say heads tails in my life. But yeah, a lot of controversy from that, and I think we talk a lot about the refs putting the ball in their own hands. With all these penalties, this was a ref taking the game into his hands with a coin flip. So for all those out there that are playing in overtime, make sure you don't say heads tails.
Yeah, I think we should maybe do a hand signal, like point to your head for heads or point to your feet for tails, something along those lines. But it's just crazy that don't you think they would clarify something like that? But nonetheless, and on TV, they should be able to hear what the guy said if he's mic'd up properly. But anyways, my number 4 moment is a lesser known one, but nonetheless, it's a very important one. Let's go in the Wayback Machine all the way to 1962. The Detroit Lions knock off the undefeated Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving. A legendary Thanksgiving Day team, the Detroit Lions, much like the Dallas Cowboys, always playing on Thanksgiving. But it was very, very fun to watch because at the time, Detroit wasn't quite the powerhouse that Green Bay was. Green Bay had Bart Starr back there at quarterback, and they were a dominant force. They had just won the title or championship the year before in 1961, and they hadn't lost a game at all this season. Detroit comes in on Thanksgiving Day, and they just come right out of the gate and smack the Packers in the mouth, get off to an early 23-0 lead, and the player I have on the screen, Gail Cogdill, caught a touchdown pass, as well as Milt Plum caught a touchdown pass. They returned a fumble for a touchdown, and they completely shut down Bart Starr in this game. He only had 142 passing yards, 2 picks, and it was one of the biggest Thanksgiving Day upset wins that I could possibly remember. Do you recall any of this, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely not. This was 30 years before I was born, but it's nice to hear Detroit actually won football games at some point in time.
And that's why we've called another Detroit upset this week. We're going way back in history. Detroit has the possibility to do it again, so let's go Detroit. My number 3 on the list, so one we all know, all love, the O.J. Simpson story. But this is the positive O.J. Simpson story. O.J., when he sets the NFL single-game rushing record on Thanksgiving Day in 1976, he goes out there and literally just absolutely kills them. 273 rushing yards.
Whoa. Allegedly kills them.
Okay, allegedly kills them. He allegedly stabs and carves up the turkey. OJ allegedly kills them with 273 rushing yards. This was when he was on the Buffalo Bills, and this was against the Detroit Lions. He finished that year with 1,500 rushing yards, but it was only in a 14-game season, so let's keep that in mind. This is something that needs to be remembered, because I think it's an absolute travesty that even though OJ could rush for 273 rushing yards, the Bills still lost to Detroit 27-14. Like, I mean, how much more can a guy do? What do you think?
Well, obviously he did a whole lot later. It's great to hear that Detroit. I mean, that's 2 games Detroit evidently won at some time in their history. I mean, good for them.
Yeah, we neglect to remember these things. It's just a part of history, though. Detroit is a traditional Thanksgiving Day winner, and that cements why our pick was such a good one. All right, my number 2 pick, near and dear to my heart. I think we can all know where the number 1 pick is going towards, but my number 2 pick is the 2011 Harbaugh Bowl. No, not the Super Bowl, but this was a Thanksgiving Day matchup preview of the later Super Bowl that season. Yes, John and Jim Harbaugh meet each other on Thanksgiving Day to be what would be a Super Bowl preview for later in the season. But nonetheless, we all know John Harbaugh got the best of Jim Harbaugh that season and carried that performance all the way into the Super Bowl, naturally beating his younger brother. The older brother is always going to win these type of battles. But it was kind of a slugfest type of game. I think it was like a 19-7 sort of victory. I can't remember what the exact score was, but it was a pretty low scoring game. And Baltimore just kind of like grinds one out. Not a huge blowout. But now my favorite one, my number 1 pick, is one that I have a lot to say about. The 2013 Pittsburgh Steelers versus Baltimore Ravens game. Number 1, I was there. I was at the game with my uncle, and I actually thought we had lost. So I was leaving the game, and all of a sudden the crowd erupts, and I go back in to see what's happening. But let's start it from the beginning. In the second quarter, the game's gotten off to a shaky start for Baltimore. But what really starts to turn the tides is the Steelers try a fake field goal. And Sean Sweezum, at the time, who's the kicker, really just like screws this one up. The punter is like kind of delays on the thing, and he pulls back, try to run the ball, gets absolutely creamed on 4th down, gave Baltimore great field position, killing a big Steelers drive, but that allows Baltimore to go score and keep the game, get it back a little bit more manageable. Next play, Pittsburgh scores again, kicks off to Baltimore. Jacoby Jones, hero of the day, catches the ball and nearly ran it all the way to the house for a touchdown. if not for the dastardly tactics of Mike Tomlin himself, who walks out onto the field, interrupting Jacoby Jones's path by seemingly not seeing. He was looking up at the screen. He didn't see where he was walking, and knocks Jacoby Jones' path back in to Cortez Allen, former Citadel guy, his line, and he is able to make the tackled and save the touchdown. Baltimore does go to score the touchdown after that, but it was just it was actually the loudest I've ever heard a stadium boo. I've never seen a coach do something so despicable. But anyways, I digress. Then the momentum is all back on Pittsburgh's side. Okay? After that score, they come back, they score again. Baltimore is stopped from scoring a field goal. Ray Rice gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Tucker has to kick the field goal. Touchdown, extra point. Now Baltimore has come away with the lead, 16-7. We keep going. Tucker kicks a total 5 field goals in this game. He's the hero. But let's get down to the very, very end. The Steelers are able to answer with a touchdown pass by Jericho Cotchery. And they go for 2 points to tie up the game, and they miss it. This lets Baltimore win the closest Thanksgiving Day game that I can remember, 22-20, and it was just absolutely a crazy game. There was so much in that game that happened. There's so many memories that I can think of, but it was a very special game. And finally, I'll let you tell a little bit about this one. We have Dallas Cowboys. Leon Lett cost the Cowboys the 1993 Thanksgiving Day game. Do you want to give a little insight on this one, Nick?
Yeah, so this was against Miami. Miami trailing by a point late in the game. So this was a weird game. Down in Dallas, Thanksgiving time, crazy snowstorm out of the blue. So Miami's lining up to get game-winning field goal, 40-yard kick with 10 seconds left or so, and Dallas blocks it. The game is over. The ball is rolling down the field. Everyone's staying away from the football. Dallas is starting to celebrate. So for whatever reason, Leon Lett takes this opportunity to try and jump on the football. He slips, slides into the ball, hits it. It becomes essentially a muff punt then. Miami jumps on it with 1 second left. They kick a field goal to win the game. Absolute heartbreaker. And this is Leon Lett. So this is the same guy who just months before in the Super Bowl was walking in for a touchdown on a fumble recovery, but he starts celebrating too early and he gets knocked out of his hands at the 1 yard line. He loses his moment in the sun in the Super Bowl there to get a forever moment in NFL history, and then follows it up later that same year with a absolute goof for the ages in this Thanksgiving Day game, costing his Cowboys a win. Leon Lett, not the sharpest tack in the drawer, either on the Super Bowl Sunday or Thanksgiving Thursday.
Incredible. All right, Nick, do you want to grace us with your Cowboy-studded Thanksgiving Day lineup?
Well, so this isn't all Dallas, but I'm going to bring up Detroit, but this time Detroit doesn't win. It's more the modern era. And my first one, number 5, is Peyton Manning throws for 6 touchdowns against Detroit Lions in 2004. I think what was really cool about Peyton Manning in that offense that year, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Brandon Stokely, Dallas Clark, Edgerrin James at running back, that was the first modern NFL offense where we had 3 wide receivers, a passing, receiving tight end, and Peyton Manning was just carving teams up, broke the record for passing touchdowns that year and passer rating. The Colts had a really great year, ended up losing to the Patriots in the playoffs. But that game was so special because it just looked the way the NFL is now. A lot of points, a lot of high scoring. It just was kind of at the time we didn't know it, but it was a glimpse into the future of football, the way we watch it today and the way the game is played today. So it's just really cool looking back on that game in 2004. My number 4 moment of all time, this is a guy who's now out of a job this Thanksgiving, but I'm sure he's still thankful for this. This is Jason Garrett in 1994. Dallas loses Troy Aikman. They lose their backup quarterback, Rodney Peete. So Jason Garrett, the 3rd stringer from Princeton, comes in and outduels Brett Favre on Thanksgiving to give the Cowboys a huge win out of nowhere. Those were 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. They beat the Packers 42-31. No one has ever heard of Jason Garrett before that moment. And this was before he became the coach, and everyone wishes they hadn't heard of Jason Garrett. This was his one shining moment for the Dallas Cowboys as a player. Big game for him, big moment for him, Thanksgiving 1994. Number 3, little blast from the past for you. This is Clint Longley, quarterback for Dallas in 1974. Just like with the Troy Aikman injury, Roger Staubach, their Hall of Fame quarterback, was hurt against Washington that day. So Clint Longley has to step in. Now, the Cowboys are getting killed, but Clint Longley rallies them for 3 touchdowns, including 2 long bombs to future Hall of Famer Drew Pearson, including one in the final seconds to beat Washington 24-23. Now, the great thing about Longley, just a little backstory, this was a guy who didn't believe in film study, didn't believe in really knowing the playbook. The only reason he was throwing long bombs was because that's all he knew how to do. So as they didn't really have any plays or game plans for him, so he just went out in the game and just slung it around, just straight gunslinging it up back there. And the funny thing about it is after the game, after the win, Cowboys guard offensive lineman John Nyland was quoted. It's a famous quote in Cowboys history. It says, "We just witnessed the triumph of the uncluttered mind." This was a guy who didn't even know the playbook, still went out there just playing schoolyard football, found a way to win. My number 2 moment, and this is one that'll live in infamy, is the butt fumble. This is Mark Sanchez against the Patriots. We all remember this. It's been on highlight plays for the last decade or so. Sanchez takes a snap. It's a busted play, runs into his offensive lineman, loses the football, return for a touchdown, forever lives in Jets infamy for just the butt fumble, just an embarrassment for the Jets. And this is just such the Jets, right? If this play had happened like 1:00 on a Sunday, people would see it and laugh about it, but it would have been not nearly as big. But because the Jets, they finally got an opportunity to play on Thanksgiving Thursday night. This was after Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody was all full. The entire America is sitting on their couches watching football with family, relaxing after a day of Thanksgiving festivities. And they tune in to watch the butt fumble. And just Mark Sanchez and just the Jets' luck, it all happens there. And that's a moment none of us will ever forget. And the Jets will wish people would forget. And my number 1 for me, and this is just a classic football thing. This is John Madden talking about turducken. Now, I've never had turducken, but I sure would like to. It's got the turkey stuffed into a duck, stuffed into a chicken, and there's like layers of dressing and stuff there. It sounds like a heart attack on a platter, but Madden loved it. And the thing that was awesome about it, that just Madden growing up and Thanksgiving football and all that, it was just kind of a cool thing to hear him talk about and just hear with the game, because it was kind of fun, right? Because Thanksgiving is a fun holiday. You're just around watching football and relaxing. And Madden always kind of embraced that with his demeanor and the way he appreciated and enjoyed the game, and just the way he would talk about turducken. Like we talked about, like the big media, they're all buttoned up in the suits and stuff, and that was not John Madden at all. There's the famous clip where he brings a turducken on live TV and he rips it open with his hands to show Al Michaels what's in it. It's just hilarious, just classic Madden, and just reminds me of Thanksgiving football and growing up. And that's my number 1 moment. And my honorable mention moment is just another flashback. So for me, the very first year I became very involved watching football growing up was 2004. And so my very first Thanksgiving Day game as a big fan, that was Dallas against Chicago. And the very first draft pick that Dallas ever had that year was rookie Julius Jones. It was the first draft pick I followed, running back from Notre Dame. This was his coming out party, ran for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns as Dallas beat Chicago. I just remember that for me because it's just a special moment for me in my personal football watching history, watching a guy who I followed in college a little bit and seeing Dallas pick him and follow him his rookie year, being a little kid growing up, just seeing that happen. That was just an awesome moment that I'll never forget. And I think really embodies what Thanksgiving football is all about.